So, I wanted to start off, I guess, the first video on my channel by just going into a psychological idea, a psychological theory, Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development, which takes kind of the basis from like Sigmund Freud's psychoanalyst work, except instead of talking about like psychosexual development, he talks more about how someone develops in a society because he's not a weirdo. So there's 8 general stages of this. I'm not going to go super in depth into it. I'm just an AP psychology student. I mean, I already took the test, but I'm an AP psychology student. I'm not a psychologist. But first stage is trust versus mistrust. This is usually around infancy, where basically a young baby is like learning, oh, can I trust this motherly figure? Or whenever she steps outside or something, or do I think I'm going to be abandoned, basically. And some people, you might be able to tell, don't really grow out of that stage. They are usually overly dependent. And then around early childhood, you get autonomy versus shame and doubt. You're figuring out what the world has to offer. This a lot of the time with like potty training, like that's one of your first steps into being independent, is being able to use the toilet by yourself. And a lot of the time, children feel this is where they start feeling bad about not using the toilet whenever they're being potty trained. They start to feel bad and shame and guilt about using the bathroom in their trousers. That's the early childhood autonomy versus guilt, or autonomy versus shame and doubt. But the next one is stage 3, of course, the third stage. Around the preschool age, you get your initiative versus guilt. This is a bit prior to school age, so you're not worried about how much you're getting done, but rather getting it done, taking the initiative to get something done versus breaking the rules. But the reason why you don't do things at earlier ages, it's because of bad consequences. But as you start to develop morally, you truly understand the difference between right and wrong. And right now, this is the stage where it's like, oh, I better start pulling my weight, or I'm gonna get punished for that. And that's where the initiative versus guilt comes from, and kind of recognizing good and bad while also seeing that there is some practicality, and you don't want to get punished. Stage 4 is around school age, industry versus inferiority. This is where you're like, okay, I gotta do my work, or I'm gonna fall behind. I'm not going to succeed. That's really all there is to say about it. This comes around mostly in school. You're starting to see, you might start to compare yourself to other people, like, oh dang, Johnny over here is getting A pluses. He's working hard. He's going to be something. Am I going to be something? Which you might not be thinking that hard about it. I mean, as hard as like I was. But that's something that's kind of starts to creep into your mind. Industry versus inferiority. Stage 5, identity versus confusion. This is your teenage years where you're like, oh, it's not a phase, Mom. Okay, it's kind of that, like, you're trying to figure out who you are. And you don't want to be. It's basically identity versus your role confusion. And you see a lot of that today. People are trying to kind of find their group, and I feel like that's where a lot of the not to get into like sexual development, but that's where like I feel like a lot of the LGBT stuff comes from. Not that children or like teens really care that much about sex. Rather, it is a identity that they can fit around. That may be a controversial thing to say, but I don't care. Stage 6, intimacy versus isolation. So this is basically where young adulthood, you're like, you want to find someone, you want to find that soulmate. It's mostly comes from our desire to breed and carry on as humans, but nowadays it's kind of come from our kind of lust that we feel. I feel like that's where a lot of it comes now. From now, kind of like I feel like, yeah, as our society has progressed, we become more sedentary. The need to reproduce isn't there as much as kind of just our kind of primal feelings of ooga booga sex. Uh, but yeah, that's basically what it is. You don't want to be alone. No one really wants to be uh the 40-year-old in their mom's basement on like Reddit all day. Uh, yeah, stage 6 is around your middle adulthood, generativity versus stagnation. This is where this is kind of past the point of uh finding someone. Now you're like, oh, I need to actually have kids. I need to carry on a legacy. Either that or I'm going to basically just stay the same or go downhill, stagnate. Just stay the same. And I don't think a lot of people really want that. They may kind of trick themselves into that because it's like, oh yeah, I'm getting this career, I'm getting this money, but really in the end, I feel like a lot of people are going to learn, yeah, or going to think, yeah, I'd rather have kids, I'd rather continue the legacy, the lineage, and that's basically what this is about. I really wanted to go into detail and talk about how in our society currently we've kind of done the opposite of what was best in these stages, but uh, my MacBook is also about to die, so uh, then our seventh stage, it eighth stage, sorry, don't have a script or anything, is uh, this is where you're older now. Ego integrity versus despair. Basically, otherwise known as integrity versus despair. This is basically where you reflect back on your life and you can either say, well, that was a job well done, or you could say, wow, there's so much more I could do. I wronged so many people. You can either that sucked. You can it's the reflection back on one's life. I really hope that video I really hope this video helped you out with that. I'm sorry I'm not the best at explaining things, and I'm kind of, very distracting with my movements, but I think this could help some people. I think um, I did the job. Give myself a pat on the shoulder, pat on the back, and yeah.